happens.
You do that, by the way.
It's what?
It's a long story.
Oh, well, that'll kill some time. Okay. So we got Phil and Lucy, and we're going to break down some of the workouts. So Lucy, I'll be looking to you for kind of the individual. Well, Phil, obviously you were an individual athlete, you coach individuals, but I think Lucy probably brings a unique perspective because she's just been there like at that level very recently. So you're both involved this year. You're going to Berlin, Lucy, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And what are you doing there?
I'm commentating.
Wow. Is that on like the official, like the CrossFit feed, or are you just bringing like a little recorder yourself?
Just a mini microphone. No, I think it's the official thing. I'll be honest, I don't really know. Like,
okay.
But regardless, I either do it and I have a good time, or I watch it and I have a good time. So
yeah,
I think I'm gonna have a good time anyway.
I think that's hard.
Huh?
I think that's hard, like commentating and
yeah, but she won't be like play by play. She'll be like if you were doing this, Lucy, what would you do? Like she's not going to be the.
I don't know I don't know the terminology. It's
color. Yeah,
color,
play by play would be like Sean or whoever, and then she'd be color commentary. That's what they call it. Where she'd be like, "Oh, here's where your arms start to blow up," and blah blah blah. And then they're like, "Wow, great insight, Lucy."
Even though I've said the worst thing in the world, they're like, "Yeah, that was really good."
And they'll also call you Lisa Campbell. Don't get your name wrong. So you were all gung ho for to build upon your rookie appearance last year, and you've had to sit out the season. So what happened?
Yeah, so I found out that I actually competed last season, the whole of last season, on a broken wrist. So yeah, casual. But basically, like we initially just thought it was inflammation. So I had a steroid injection, didn't really work. Had another one, didn't work. Went to a different doctor, and he wanted to do a debridement. So you basically like keyhole surgery. It's pretty simple, like get the crap out that's causing the inflammation, basically. And it was only when he went in that he found that there was actually a fracture.
Okay.
But it's really complicated, so they can't actually like fix the bone necessarily. Like it's basically in like 5 pieces. So usually with fractures, you might just like stick a pin in it and kind of keep the bones together, and then it will heal. But because there's so many parts, they can't do that. So now there's also no other way that they could fix it that would allow me to carry on doing CrossFit. So they are looking at like pain management methods. So on Monday, I've got an appointment to try to decide which nerves they're going to cut, so I reduce the pain sensation in my wrist. So yes, it's intense and very complicated.
So your options are to fix it and stop competing in this sport anyway, or not fix it, live with the pain, or cut the nerves that are transmitting the pain from your wrist to your brain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fucking hell. And does that affect other things? So like say if you like bang your arm off something, will you not know if those nerves, or if you're like standing beside a stove or something?
No, they've kind of assured me that it doesn't cause any long-term damage. There shouldn't be any negative side effects, and it also doesn't stop me from fixing it once I finish CrossFit.
Oh, okay.
So the kind of only solution that they've presented me with that I would see as a kind of viable solution would be that I have a 3D print of my other lunate bone and have it inserted. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's crazy though. So you did the open quarters, semis, and games all with a broken wrist.
Yeah.
Geez, Chandler Smith can shut up about his wrist then. I'm only joking. So that's crazy though. So was it like just a stress factor, just like repeated abuse basically, or something?
No, I think now that I look back on it, there was a clean that I failed. And funnily enough, it is actually on my Instagram from back at that time. Like I failed this lift. I kind of get spat out, hold on to my wrist, and then build back up and actually finish at a kind of 97% clean or something like that. But
Okay.
I do remember, like, I then did like a snatch maybe a month later or something, and I felt this like crunch in my wrist. And it was after that I was like, oh, this is really quite sore. And so I started to like strap up for snatches and things like that a lot more, and rely on my wrist wraps for kind of anything overhead and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, at the time it was like, I can carry on doing everything. So, you know, I just thought I'd like hyperextended it or something like that.
And what are you able to do now? Are you able to do like gymnastics and stuff, or are you just doing like legs and cardio kind of?
Yeah, kind of legs and cardio. Like, since having the surgery, the pain has kind of got worse. Partly because like I feel like all of the like forearm and stuff tension that I had that was like holding everything in place, because I've had so much time off it now. My forearm, and because of the surgery, my forearm is a lot weaker in comparison. So like, yeah, that it's, I've pretty much stayed off it a lot of the time. And now that we're sort of so close to trying to quote unquote fix it, or get as close as we can to fixing it, there's not a huge amount in pushing it because it is quite sore.
How are your wrists, Phil?
Yeah, they're okay. Mine get more sort of strain injury from typing more than training now.
yeah, clicking a pen. How's walleye prep going? That all going well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're not all together right now.
Sam's over there quite frequently though, isn't he? He's been over there 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, so he came. Obviously, they had to come all the time
Yeah.
during the Open, and he just stayed the whole time during the Open. And Joshua came in and out for the weekends because he has a young kid back home, and it's a big commitment to leave for really long times. They were here for the quarterfinals, and then they just both came for like a 2-week training camp that went really, really well. And coincidentally, I was also hosting a competition, a 4-person team competition. So I asked, like, they tested a lot of the workouts for me. So I asked if like they could also kind of compete, but just not.
Yeah, I saw that. So they did it, but weren't on the leaderboard, basically.
Yeah. So basically, they got the practice of, like, I thought it'd be really good for them to get the practice of being on a competition floor and dealing with, they acted like they were competing. They had judges, they had heat times and all that, but their scores didn't go on the leaderboard. But it was really good for them to, like, you learn so many things in a competition that you don't really get from training. Like, when the stress levels rise a little bit, you need to learn how each person deals with how workouts, when they go good, when they go bad, who needs to talk things over, who needs 10 minutes on their own, and I think the weekend that was really beneficial to them, to get that in. But the training has gone really good. The training that they have been able to do together, I think that they're going to be in a really good position to do very, very well at semi-finals. I'm very confident that they will go to the games. I hope that they can kind of be in the battle with No Shortcuts and Oslo the whole weekend. I think that's why they deserve to be. They need to perform at their absolute best to be with those teams. And I think that would be probably their aim for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 2 podium contenders in the other 2 teams. So if you're keeping up with them, as in like games podium contenders, so if you're keeping up with them at semi-finals, you're doing good, basically.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Oslo, because they've been 2 years in a row. They've proven that they're extremely well-rounded. They have no major holes and weaknesses. No Shortcuts look awesome, and I think that they will be really good. But they haven't been through a full test, and been to a semi-finals and that. So there's still, a little bit of unknown around them. But I think that they will be. I think it will be Oslo and No Shortcuts that are the teams that Walleye are trying to, really battle with and stay with.
Yeah, there is an aspect to No Shortcuts. Like, Andre is so kind of mellow, and like he's like doesn't really give anything away. But I've seen clips of them training, sit back like before the Open and like during the Open and stuff, and like they were like properly amped, like in their
He gets
videos,
really
like
fired up, like when he is
like
he
they were
is,
like jumping around, and I was like, like you were not going to be able to maintain this for like 6
and then he
months.
like puts his game face on, and
Yeah,
you
crazy,
probably
though.
can't read him, but like he gets pretty fired up. They'll be good to watch. I think it'll be really good to watch them. Like
yeah, I think
in Europe will be entertaining.
Both the teams and the individual. Well, look, we'll go through some of these workouts. You just have to bear with me because I'm doing this on my own and I'm really shit at doing this. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. Is it? Yes. Oh, look at that. All right. So we start with the individuals. So 3,000 meter echo bike, hand over hand pull, 2,000 meters assault air runner, hand over hand pull, and then 1,000 meter ski, and then hand over hand pull. So I've got a lot of questions about this. So hand over hand pull, I was watching so Shut Up and Scribble, Taylor Self and J.R. Howell have a new show on Savann's channel, and Brian Frame was on them last night, and same as Taylor was reading it out, and I read it. The word is like when you read a word that's spelled wrong, but your brain corrects it for you and like fills in the gap. That's what I had with hand over hand pull. I did the same thing Taylor did, where sled just went in. Like as I was reading it, I was just like hand over hand sled pull, and then it was only when they said it that I was like, oh shit, it actually doesn't actually say hand. It doesn't actually say sled. So one question is that what's it actually going to be, and the second question is why or how is the last one like slightly longer? Do you think is that deliberate because they're looking for people to do 84, know what that feels like, do 84, know what that feels like, and then get caught out after the skier and have that extra burn towards the end that would just be more of a struggle? Lucy, what were your thoughts when you saw this one?
This for me is like, I like the look of this workout just because I am from like a traditionally very cardiovascular sport, especially with the time domains that we used to do. But like, I do think that for me, I know that everyone loves like not knowing stuff. I bloody hate it. So not knowing what we're pulling, like the emissions of the words and stuff like that, does my head in.
That's it. Every workout has something like that, though.
Literally,
like they all have something. Like all of them, we'll go through them all, but like they all have something where you're like, same thing. You read it, you think it's one thing, and then someone else says, "But what if it's not that?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh shit, I never thought of that."
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, like, because I listened to that same like podcast, and I do think that the floor will be sticky. Like, I just think that the sled's not really going to move very well. The thing is as well, like, I obviously in the short time that I've been doing CrossFit, like 4 years, I've not seen any sled pulls. Like, I've never done a sled pull in a comp or anything like that. So I feel like although I'm the, I guess, current individual, Phil actually probably has more experience of the kind of programming that we're seeing at the moment, because like these whole set of tests feel just completely different to like anything that I've seen in the last 4 years.
What do you think, Phil?
I mean, overall, like as a workout, I think it's very cool. I like.
Would you classify this as like old school then, like what Lucy's saying?
I guess it is kind of old school because I think that those things, like the sled pull, is like it's a very
sled.
If you've been in,
we think
sorry, if it is a sled pull or some sort of pulling, you're assuming you're pulling something for the distance.
You assume you're pulling something towards you, across the floor, rather than like down or like over the rig or something, because it's for distance.
But like one of the if you've been in this sport for a while, you'll remember watching 2000. I can't, if I get the year right or wrong now, 2011 final. The pictures of the guys like pulling the sled at the end of that. That was like a really cool finish.
That was Josh and Rich, wasn't it?
I
they did it as well, didn't they? Yeah.
Campbell won that workout, and then Rich pulling the sled at the end there.
Yeah.
It's like it's been around for a really long time, and I like that they're bringing those things back into a semi-final setting. And I hope that the surface is like has enough friction that this does feel heavy and becomes a very important part of the workout and not just a very fast part of the workout, because otherwise I don't think the distances on the machines will make a huge they're not super long distances.
Well, the only issue with the distance is if someone shits the bed, like just goes out way too hot because they're like, holy shit, I'm at semi-finals and there's a crowd and it's loud, and they just don't look at their own monitor for a minute, or they glance down the line and they're like, that guy's going fast, I better keep up.
I definitely think on a everyone's going to get off the echo bike about the same. I think if you get off way faster, you may have made a mistake, or you're extremely fit.
That's the type of mistake you only realize when you sit down to pull the sled and you're like, uh-oh. You're looking at everyone still going.
I think everyone will feel pretty good on the first pull. The runner will definitely start to cause some separation. Like 2,000 meters is definitely enough. And it's more kind of then like the recovery after the run is where a lot of separation will come in. And then like pulling the sled, skiing, and then pulling the sled.
That's going to be
really, really hard, especially if that is a heavy sled. Then that last, whatever that is, 8 minutes of work there, of just 8 minutes of pure pulling, is going to be really difficult at the end of that. And I think it's going to be a really cool one to watch to start the weekend. Like the energy is going to be really high, and you're going to see people, like it looks cool when you see sleds overtaking, if it is a sled or whatever it is, if it overtakes another one on the floor, it looks cool to watch. It's fun.
The only other thing it could be is the torque tanks, you can lock the wheels, can't you? So they go dead straight.
I actually know, I've never used a torque tank actually.
I'm pretty sure there is something where, because I know when they're pushing it, like down the track or whatever, a lot of them are kind of turning a little bit. But I'm pretty sure I remember someone in commentary saying that they can be locked, that it's like it literally just goes in a dead straight line no matter what you do. So
I think if it was a tank, that there would also be a push, like it would say hand over hand pull, and then it would say push. Because I think you would have to push it back into position, where I think if it's a sled, they're probably just going to either like spin it around or just like unclip and clip it in, but I think probably just spin it around.
Could they not just have
sorry, go on.
Could they not just have two ropes like either side, so it basically like lengthens out the other side as you're pulling?
But I think the reason that the length will be longer is because the last pull will be just like, maybe you have, so the first one is like a line, you'll pull down the floor, the next round you'll pull back towards like the rig, and the final
and then into like the end zone kind of
finish line, which is just
to your point as well, Lucy. I think that's fine on paper, but like say there's fucking 20 people in a heat in like Orlando, and if you have all these ropes, it's like, what are the chances that they all just happen to go in a perfect straight line? I think sled immediately comes to mind for that last bit there, that's going to be absolutely horrible. Like to do the pull, then ski, and then do the pull again, unless you're incredibly adept at skiing and like grip just is not an issue at all. That's going to be a shit show, I think.
I do think it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens on the assault runner after that first one, because for the people that are like fit enough for the time domain and like not to phase them, and for the people that are comfortable with running, comfortable on ergs, like they'll have had the first pull to kind of assess how difficult the pulls are going to be, which basically either means that if you're a good runner and if you're comfortable with running, you can then try and make a move on the runner so that then you know what's coming and you know that you can like get off and start to make a move. Or like if that first pull has kind of freaked you out a bit, it might be the opposite, that actually like that kind of makes you back off a little bit on the runner, because you're like, oh shit, that did not go well. I don't want to gas myself up too much because I already feel like this getting onto it. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. But like, the interference for the ski pull segment is not going to be fun.
Isn't it the classic like race event as well, where like you're not going to win it on any one segment, but you could lose it on any one segment? Like you're not going to sprint 2,000 meter runner and that's it, it's in the bag. But like you could easily lose it by going slightly too fast or by slowing down too much, or like going too fast in one section and needing to slow down too much later on. That's where you lose it, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So I also think that like the last pole could be where a lot of people lose it, or the last ski into the pole could be where a lot of people lose it, because if people do have that kind of like, you know, on the last kilometer all systems go type mentality, and then they come onto the pole and it is, I mean, it's not much longer, it's 8 foot longer, but it's long enough that, you know, with the interference and everything like that, that might kind of tip you over a little bit.
Okay, we go. I can't actually see these. Is that 2?
That's teams
We're
2.
giving them like
That's
a thumbs up or thumbs down after each one if we're happy with them.
Yeah, well, what do you think of that one?
I'm definitely thumbs up for that one.
Yeah,
I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start to the weekend. I hope it plays out how I think, like visually, like if they do a good job with the layout on the floor, I think it's a really cool start and a way to make a machine workout exciting.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's doable? And it's, I mean, they've obviously tested it and stuff, but do you think that that's confidently doable for most of the field in half an hour?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Test 2. We'll stick with individuals because I meant to click on test 1 for the teams, but I didn't. So here we are. So test 2. So you do 3 minutes, then rest, and you do 3 rounds of that. And it's 5 ring complexes. So toes to ring, muscle up, ring dip, and then 20 single leg squats. And then max burpees over box. So again, there's language left out. Like you have to feel it deliberately. There's no way that it's vague on purpose, like by accident. So 5 ring complex is very straightforward. You do your toes to ring, muscle up, and then at the top of the muscle up, you do a dip. And then you come down. That's like, I just feel like this, like maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but I feel like this is retaliation to people complaining about muscle up reps being questionable and lockout and stuff, that there's literally no hiding here. You have to lock out twice because if you don't lock out the muscle up, because you're not swinging straight back down, so there's no hiding from it, and then you'll have to lock out obviously in the dip. The language then, so the 20 single leg squats, you know, is that the same as the teams where they're doing left and then right? Is it alternating? Like, just don't know. Usually it's alternating, but it usually says alternating. And then max burpees over box, like jumps, crawl over it, get over it any way you want. Like there's, again, just vague. Although a lot of people, like I was talking to Keelan Henry last night, and he was like, you have to assume it's get over and not jump onto, because if you're wearing a ruck, and he was saying that to his knowledge in the African semi-final they're going to have the foam boxes, and he was like, that's just asking for trouble. It's like they're so like unsteady, the kind of like squishy ones. So he's like, you'll easily just have people falling over and then into each other's lanes and all that kind of stuff. So he was like, surely it's just get over it, get your hands in it and get over it. What are your thoughts on this, Phil? Do you want to start us on this one?
I think this is a really cool workout. I think it's gonna be really hard. The ring complex, I think it's gonna be like really taxing, especially going into set 2 and 3. The fatigue from the burpees and then trying to hit those sets again. I think it's gonna be one of those things where there is a few people in each region that can go unbroken for 3 sets, but maximum just a few people. Like I think what is more likely is that you need to have like a really good strategy on how you're going to break those up to be able to like make sure you get through them. No reps, no failed reps, because there's a very high chance of failed reps on the muscle ups with this, all the weight being on your back now. And I would imagine that people have less exposure to a ruck than they do a weight vest, which would be easier to have some of the weight on your front, some of the weight on your back.
Do you know what? I genuinely never pieced together that they'd be wearing the bag for the ring complex as well. In my head, they were like doing the ring complex, putting on a bag, doing the squats,
Scrambling
and
to get your
burpee.
backpack on.
Yeah, so that's totally different then.
Yeah.
I was wondering, that's totally different then, because like that's your whole center of mass is thrown off. You're like your last 5 years of doing muscle ups, you've probably not done them with a backpack, like a backpack. You've probably done them, like you say, with a vest or nothing.
One of the things I found, like, because I did a few just to see if I could give any advice to Victor and Camilla, like, especially with the long straps, if they're going to use those, when you do the complex and you have the 3 different movements, it really throws off your rhythm, and it was actually a little bit difficult to figure out how to not get that swing back and forward.
Oh yeah,
going from the big swingy toaster ring into the muscle up that you now want to keep. You actually want to probably reduce your kip as much as possible.
Yeah, you'd probably be better off doing like a strict toaster bar, as strict as you can,
and you kind of want your muscle up to be like a little bit, not strict, but like very, very tight, so you're not getting too much lean back, where the weight of the backpack is basically just pulling you back down. So it really does mess with your technique, and I think you'll see every week that the scores get better on this just from exposure to that. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see just next week, when they've only had 1 week to practice this, like how those athletes deal with it, and then I think it will get better each week. But a lot of mistakes, I think, can be made by people. People will want to go unbroken in round 1 that shouldn't go unbroken, and they will do it anyway, and then go really hard on burpees. And I think you can possibly have athletes that don't even get past the muscle ups in the 3rd set.
I do think as well. Sorry, if you do decide to hold on, that's grippy. Like that's a long time to be hanging on there. And like the other thing that I hadn't really looked at properly, but now that I'm seeing it written down, like as many reps as possible in 3 minutes and it's the full workout. It's not for like max reps of the burpees, which means I don't think they're expecting people to get to the last round to get to the burpees on some of the rounds. Like I think that they're aware that people will not get there.
So someone will still get a score for 25, say, rather than 0.
I wonder whether part of the score will be the 5 plus the 20, and then you kind of add the bonus reps.
So maybe you get like 35 reps in round 1, and then maybe 25 in the last round, or 24 or something. Yeah, okay. Yeah. If you were doing this, so Lucy, if you were getting ready for Berlin now, do you do like on a, say, Monday, do you do, right, I'll just test out that, see how it feels, I'll do it, and I'll alternate my pistol squats, and I'll do jumps onto the box and over, and then do you come back another day and say, okay, now this time I won't, like, do you test out how because you obviously don't want to burn out by like constantly, because there's so many permutations or so many different ways it can be done. Like, do you just kind of draw a line and say, I'll do it all on one side, knowing that alternating would then be easier?
Yeah, I mean, this might be me being kind of naive with it, but like it wouldn't really bother me too much that I have to do 10 on one side and then 10 on the other. I think the main way that it would, like, it's not like it was at Whatappalooza when it was like a silly number of reps on one leg and you're hobbling around. Like 10 and 10 is kind of fine, but I do think that like you would only really kind of test that if it was unbroken, for instance. So like you might test a set of 10 unbroken on one side, but again, like because you've got the ruck on, unless you can really replicate that, you still have no idea how it's going to feel on the day. And so there's going to be a lot of like, you very much have to adapt on the fly, because like I've got no idea where I would get a ruck from if I was to do this workout, if I was properly testing this workout. And I certainly don't know anyone that has them, not locally.
Did you not get one last year in Madison, though?
No.
Oh, no. I'd be livid.
But that's the thing. And I think that's the thing that I kind of find frustrating, is that you've already kind of got a separation there with like, not only, obviously anyone that has been to an event that has a ruck and they gave you the rucks, you can test this and you get a proper feel of what it's going to feel like. So already the people that have been to those events can actually get a proper feel, or get a much better idea of how these things are going to feel. Yeah. The ring complex especially, like I do think that's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to kind of underestimate that, and maybe it's gonna like shit will hit the fan sooner than they're expecting it to when you add a ruck versus a weight vest.
Yeah. What do you think of that one then? Are you both enthusiastic about that one?
I am definitely. I think that's a really good test. I think that's a good test to see people that have the capacity to go to the
people that own a ruck. I do empathize with what Lucy's saying, where like what you're saying is it's a really good test if everyone has a ruck and everyone can see that workout now and has a week with a ruck to practice it. But it's not a fair test. It's not a fair test if not everyone has a ruck. And like it's not like a ruck is like 30 quid. They're stupid money for a bag. So like well, although I say everyone is sponsored show, I think that's okay. But the cost added to the cost of semi-finals, the time frame that you need to get a ruck in, like it's fine. I mean, I saw John Singleton put up a thing on his story the other day of like 5 years of rucks or whatever, and it's like, yeah, that's great. Like, and it's I'm not judging him for having them, but it is harsh on other people who aren't belonging to a camp with a steeped history and going to the games, who are like, oh, I guess I'll just use my old school bag and hope that the straps hold out and like just see what happens.
Or you don't get smacked with the back of the head with the dumbbell that you put in there.
Yeah. I remember I went on a run once with a bag with a kettlebell in it. The bottom of my back, my bottom of my back was so badly bruised because it was just like boom, boom each time. I was like, I'm better off having them tight or loose. And I was like, alternating as I was going. Okay. So Phil, you're keen on that. Lucy, you're kind of so.
Yeah, I do think I like it in principle, and I like
it'll be good to watch.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But
the thing that I also, unless it's really like, unless you do have people at really obvious different points of the workout, let's say like at the end of the 3-minute window, it's kind of the same thing as what happened in Amsterdam, where you've not got any idea what reps anyone's on. Let's say that everyone ends up on the burpee box overs and you just have no idea.
I think that long floor that you're going to advance you down the room every 10 reps.
Yeah.
But even then,
I often think with those kind of scenarios, what they should do is, the way usually when you're counting down, the judge puts up their hand like 5, 4. I always think if it's one like this, they should just put up their hand and count up. So at least you have some chance of knowing like, oh shit, they're on 7. And then they've only got 3 more and they're going to move their box. Or move every 5 or something. Because you're not going to get that many burpees in, surely. No. They could just move 5.
Like at Lowlands, we had to move it every so often. I can't remember, I think it was 10, and people were doing that, but you still kind of didn't know where everyone was. And then obviously
unless 2 people move theirs at the exact same time, you're like, I don't know.
And that's the thing, like you could all be in line, but like everyone's doing their own reps and they don't know whether, like, we're on the same block of 10, but I'm on 7 and someone else is on 3, and it's like not super clear.
Chandler's fucking huge, isn't he? he's so ripped. All right, so this one then, so in 2018, wasn't it? Barbell Linda was in Berlin as well. Yeah, Barbell Linda was there, and now we've got like dumbbell. I'm assuming the deadlifts are a bar, are they? And the squat cleans are a bar, but the bench is a dumbbell.
Yeah, I think so.
So then, this is going to be slower then than 2018? Is that fair?
I would say so.
Significantly, like, or just?
I actually think quite a lot. Yeah, I think you would still have some people that finish. Maybe the top times are similar.
Yeah.
But I think there will be more people that don't finish than in 2018. I think the dumbbells are going to be extremely difficult.
They are heavy.
It's just slower as well. It's slower to start a set.
Yeah.
If you want to break up your sets, it's slower. Like if you're going to go down to the floor again.
And if you fail a rep and you have like a dumbbell goes bouncing over and then you have like a Pat Bellman moment, like chasing the dumbbell that's gone flying. I think there's just a lot of like resetting and stuff like that. That like it's faff time.
There's zero compensation as well. So if you're benching and you're like, you know, you can kind of do that. Like one side goes up, the other one is kind of chasing. But if you're doing that with dumbbells, it's just going to fall off to the side, or like you're going to get caught out a lot more for like whatever imbalances or whatever on dumbbell bench than you will on barbell bench as well. Listen to me speaking like a coach. It's so exciting. But yeah, I think that's going to be, it's going to be hectic enough. I think the dumbbells are just going to really throw the cat among the pigeons, I think.
I like the workout because I think Linda is a good workout, but I kind of wish that because they changed one element, I wish that either they kept it the same and we do the retest and we see where everyone is compared to 2018 and we keep it exactly the same, or we change more than just the bench press.
So would you have wanted dumbbells?
Maybe not dumbbells, because I don't think like you would get dumbbells heavy enough to make the deadlift the same stimulus, but I don't know, a trap bar deadlift into dumbbell bench into sandbag cleans.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like really, really change it up. So a completely different version of Linda, or keep it the same and let's use it as comparison. Like I think now you're making the workout in 2018 was already so much about the bench press for a lot of people. Some people it was like just surviving because we had 333 in the morning, and a lot of people was really feeling that, especially in the cleans. But almost for everyone, it was about who could get through the bench press, and I think it's even more so about that now.
Yeah.
That you have the deadlifts have so little pressure on them, you can break those up multiple times, and just kind of move through that. If you are someone who's really good at bench press and hits unbroken sets, I think you're going to win the workout. And then singles on the squat cleans, and if you just have a little bit of hustle, and there's a lot of transitions in this workout, so they will come into play. I remember like watching James Newbury in 2018. He's not known for being super strong, but he did very well on Linda by pacing it out well, and he pushed the transitions hard, which ended up actually being a lot of basically shuttle runs up and down the floor, and he ended up doing really, really well. So you can have a few outliers do well, but I think it's basically just a dumbbell bench press workout.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm still really excited to see that one though. It would have part of me is like if they should part of me thinks they should have leaned in even heavier, although it'll only be a surprise once, I guess, so then it's a bit stupid doing that. But if they just said it was Linda and then when they turned up be like, oh, it's dumbbells, like then that's really unfair on week one, and then it's like a piece of piss then for the last week, like for Europe and Asia. They're like, well, we've known this for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a while, I think, to get. It's not just like one of those things. Okay, we do a week of dumbbell bench press and you feel fine. Like it's really hard. Like at those weights, it's just a little bit lighter than it was. The total weight is just a little bit lighter than it was in 2018 on the bench press, but it's considerably harder.
I think as well, like when you look at the workouts that are to come, like, and even what they've had there with like the test the day before and like the ring dips and stuff like that, like stabilizing the dumbbells in that kind of top position. It's not like when you kind of unrack a bench press, there's a time where you can hold the barbell bench press, you can hold the barbell there, and as long as it's stacked on top of your shoulders, it's kind of okay. Whereas with the dumbbells, like you don't have that kind of like rest time so much. So if you're like holding it there, contemplating whether or not to break or to go for the next rep, like the pec muscles are just going to be absolutely screaming at you.
But even as you say, it's so quick when you do like whatever, you're doing 10, you could do like 6 and just rack it real quick.
Yeah.
And like if on the barbell bench, you could rack it, sit up, shake out your hands, go back down, unrack it. By that stage on the dumbbells, you're probably just putting the dumbbells on the ground. You know, like it's a lot slower to sit up with them, put them down, and not have them bounce away or whatever. Yeah, so I think that is between that and the transitions. I think that'll be interesting. This one, I again ambiguity with verbiage, but on paper I really like the look of this. Phil, can I just ask, are you drinking a Nocco?
No, it's Pepsi Max.
I was thinking it's like after 9 p.m. This guy's a psycho.
Yeah, that'll be a bit much.
Okay, so 4 and 5 back to back. So there's a 2-minute rest in between. You've got 800-meter run. We're assuming that's on the air runner because the air runner is used in workout 1. So surely they just wheel them back out for this. It's hardly 800 meters of shuttle runs, or like not every venue will also have space to run like on the floor, we'll say, like around it or whatever. So I'm assuming anyway, it's on the air runner. And then max snatch, whatever the fuck that means. Is it like there's an empty bar, put whatever plates you want on it? Or is it like the bar is set at 185, 125 pounds, do as many reps as you can? Or is it, because it says for load, is it like put whatever you want on the bar and then do as many reps as you can? So if you do 60 kilos for 10 reps, that's 600 kilos. Or is it like do like 200 kilos once and you win? Or is it like do 185 pounds as many times as you can in the remaining of the 6 minutes? There's 3 different ways that could be done. And it, like, all of them are different. All of them are like equally exciting, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a 1 rep max snatch.
Yeah, agreed.
You both think it's a 1 rep max?
I think the way that it reads, like for load, and okay.
Do you think it would say accumulated if it was?
I think it would. For output, like for
total load or something,
or for reps, like if it was a set weight, it would say.
Or max snatches maybe or something.
Yeah, max reps snatches. I don't know. I think it's a max, and I think it kind of has to be that for it to be at least a bit different to test 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
although I really do like the idea of that it's just a reversal. Although I suppose you might not get to do more than 8, I suppose. So then it would just be the opposite of itself. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, maybe you get like 15 reps done and then you're facing into another 8 and then, like that's hard. But yeah, okay.
If you have 6 minutes, you would definitely do more than 8. But like if it was 2...
I wouldn't.
50 points. If it was 2 50-point events, I think you could have basically the same thing mirrored. Like you do the run and 8 snatches or max rep snatches at 185, rest and repeat, and it's 2 50-point events. But to have 200-point events and basically the exact same thing just mirrored would be very bizarre, I think. I think even now it's borderline for me. Like I would kind of hope it was 2 50-point events. I think they're similar enough that, like, I think it biases quite hard towards the snatch. Because I think that the run in the first one especially doesn't play a huge factor. In the second one, obviously you're sprinting, but if you're assuming that the stronger, which often is associated with being a bit bigger athletes, are going to do really well, then they can often like also just go hard on a treadmill for 800 meters.
Yeah, but do you not think that, like, I just feel like on the first one, I think it's a bit different because I do think that it is going to be a 1 rep max snatch. And so I like, no one in their right mind is, unless there's a tie break time, in which case it might change it a bit, but like you wouldn't go all out sprint into a 1 rep max snatch. But I do think that, like, actually on that second one, I just feel like it's more on the run. And I think that like a 800-meter run, like you can really blow up on the second 400 if you have just gone full ham on the first 400. And I think that actually, like, if we are looking at people who might have a heavier 1 rep max, and so that barbell is something that they could touch and go, for instance, they probably have the power to be able to go ham on a 400. But I think that second 400, when you just feel like your legs stop working and like my legs don't feel like they're doing this, they feel like they're doing this now and they're going sideways. Like, I think that.
But the thing as well on the air runner is that like move slightly forward or slightly back that's what happens when you get fatigued, is that like you start dropping back a bit and stuff.
Yeah, I hope it's not an air runner, because I do just think that completely, like, in terms of the spectacle of the event, imagine how cool it would be. Like, let's say best case scenario, you have 2 laps of a 400 meter loop. I think that would be really cool to watch. But like, because then also like, if you have tried to game it a little bit, and let's say you've gone singles on the snatches, I think I would go singles on the snatches here. But like, I'm not, because I can run okay for that distance. Like I could potentially push it, but I wouldn't want to put myself at risk of not being able to push it if I tried to hold on, touch and go. I just feel like it's one of those things where like that's going to be very individual to the athlete's strengths, and not necessarily all of the field will be doing the same thing. But like,
see, I think the issue I'd have with part of me thinks that it's not an air runner because it doesn't say air runner, and it does say air runner on the first one.
Yeah.
But then I just can't buy into the belief that all the venues will have a 400 meter loop available to them. Like, I'm thinking of I saw a floor plan for Africa, and like, I really can't see them having a 400 meter. So then it's like, right, well,
200.
Yeah, but then it's like, okay, what if it's 195? Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it has to be exactly that parameter, and they're all in different venues and different, like, they have different numbers in each heat. So then they obviously have a bigger floor, and then, you know, like, I think that's what's holding me back. There's no fucking way he'd do 800 meters of shuttle runs after all the shit people.
We did it at the games.
Yeah, but after all the shit people have given him over the last like basically 12 months of being like, we get it, you like shuttle runs. Like, he's surely not going to quadruple down. He like got the age groups. I think that Steve Fawcett doing his mile of shuttle runs in the age group quarterfinals, then he goes to semifinals in elite, and he has to do 800 meters on it.
Shuttle runs? I just hope for visual sake that it's not an air runner. I think that's the thing. Like, I would love to see like the fight, because you know, when you're on an air runner, you've got no idea what's happening around you. Really, you kind of know how quickly that person's legs are moving, but you can't see the monitors. And also, like, there is a massive difference in terms of like, if you're talking obviously like on the floor, running tends to favor slightly smaller athletes, right? On the whole, just when you go on an assault runner, that completely switches. Like, as soon as it becomes a machine again, that's different.
I still believe that it's not a 1 rep max snatch. I firmly believe it's not a 1 rep max.
What do you think it is?
I think it's either 185 or 125 pounds, do as many as you can. Or else I think it's an empty bar and plates, and you pick your poison. So you can set the bar at 40 kilos and just keep going till the end, or set the bar at like 120 and do like 3 reps.
But we're dealing with, like, you know, they follow the level 1 to a T, right? And if you're talking about the last thing that you spoke about, that's power output. So wouldn't they just say for max power output, and then it's a little bit?
Yeah, but they don't want people to know. They don't want everyone saying I bet it's this.
What you're talking about isn't load.
But it's for like accumulated load. It's for like as in, I could do like 500 kilos and you could do 500 kilos, but we could both do them in a very different way. I could just do my 1 rep max snatch is 495, and then I could just do 5.
You've done 10 times 50 kilos, or I've done like whatever other iteration of that would make 500 kilos.
But I think saying max snatch is more, maybe not in keeping with level 1 or you know, like the .com kind of stuff, but I think it's a lot more engaging and exciting than power output. Because if you see, like, if whatever 95% of people that follow the sport read power output, they'd be like, what? Whereas, like, if you're a coach or an athlete or someone who's like really into the methodology and stuff, you'd be like, oh, it's obviously, do you know what I mean? Like, if I read power output there, having not spoken to you, I'd be like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, but like,
whereas when I see max snatch, my brain goes to 3 places with max snatch. It goes like 1 rep max. It goes, the bar is set, do as many as you can, like max reps, or it goes to like max, whatever way you want to get there, as much weight as you can accumulate as possible. Look, you can both just apologize to me in like
I
5
will
days.
apologize. Like if it's the output thing where you've got one guy that has no one would go heavy. You would literally all just put on, like, you would leave the barbell empty and just do kettlebell swings for the rest of the time. Like,
yeah, it's from the floor though, so you can't drop an empty bar, so no one's doing that. But yeah, I'll be, do you know what? I'll be fucking disgusted if I'm right in like some bizarre land. If I'm right and it's not an air runner and they're running around, I'd be fucking raging with myself that I went so hard on, I think it has to be an air runner. I'd be so annoyed if I'm right on that and everyone else is wrong, and then I'm wrong on something that everyone else is right on.
I feel like the point that you made at the start, that they've made a point of saying air runner on the first one and they've not said air runner on that one.
I think maybe, but you could also be reading a bit too much into it, because there has been a lot of mistakes made in, like, things have been posted early, things have been posted with the wrong descriptions. Like, it's not too strange to think that they could have just accidentally, for one of the graphics, wrote assault runner and one of the others not.
Yeah.
I feel like if they left something out, it's deliberate. If they've, like, anything that they've left ambiguous is deliberate. I think.
You think so?
I definitely think so. Yeah,
it's not a
I
mistake.
would hope it is, and it's not them kind of like leaving themselves open to.
For a company to have fucked up so many things in the last like 4 months, to then get the graphics wrong for a workout announcement when it's actually a clean slate and you can undo some of the damage that you've done, to then fuck up the graphics, I can't fathom that would happen, especially after so many people being let go and fired and whatever, made redundant. You'd be looking over your shoulder, you'd be like, everything would be triple checked. I can't
Okay, but if you think, we'll go over this when we go to the teams, but like, one of the team workouts says 800-meter run, or I don't know if it says runs. I think it says 800-meter run, and one of them says 400-meter sprint.
You just run faster.
So it's just like, what?
800-meter run, 800-meter run, 400-meter run, brackets, faster
than you did the 800. Are you reading into the language too much? Or
that's fair. But I think that's part of the fun though as well. So Nadine is agreeing with you guys at 1 round max snatch. So you'll owe me an apology as well, Nadine. All right. So there's a fellow fan of Lucy. So test 6 with a very, very smug looking Mal O'Brien. So 20 overhead squats, again, more ambiguity, right? So 20 overhead squats, fine. 500-meter row, fine. On water or on land? No, I'm joking. three handstand walk pirouettes, right? I think that the word walk is important there. I think if it was just kick up into a handstand, spin around in a circle 3 times in a box, it would just say 3 handstand pirouettes. I think the fact that it says 3 handstand walk pirouettes mean that you kick up, you walk to a box, you do a circle, you walk to a box, you do a circle, you walk to a box, you do a circle. Then you're at the rig, you do your handstand push-ups, you do your legless rope climbs, you walk back down with your boxes in between, then you do your 500-meter row, then you do your 20 overhead squats, and then you bow to the adulation of the Germans.
Okay. So do you think that the teams are doing it in a circle on one spot then? Because theirs says 3 handstand pirouettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the teams are doing it on one spot and the individuals are doing it there, or
is that number 3?
Or the language that is being used is not being consistent.
That's not number 3.
Oh, I hope it's different, and I hope the language is purposefully different and not just that this is an accidental omission.
Well, it's either very, very purposeful language, or there's a lot of inconsistencies.
What workout is that in the teams?
Workout number 3 for the teams, it says 3 handstand pirouettes.
Yeah.
Not handstand walk pirouettes. And theirs is unbroken single leg squats, leg 1. The individuals just said single leg squats.
Leg squats, yeah.
I cannot share two things at the same time, so just deal with this, that we're going back and forth. So 400 meter sprint, 10 double bench press, 15 single leg squat. Okay. Yeah, I also think that's important. I think that's a deliberate change in language. And then 3 handstand pirouettes.
I think that's deliberate. I would be very surprised if the teams. I think that is potentially a mistake. The handstand pirouettes or the handstand walk pirouettes.
Yeah, looking at that, I can't see them not making them walk in between. Like, I can't.
It's the same rep scheme 3. I think they'll be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think there'd be a box. You have to stay inside the box. You can't go outside the box.
Yeah.
If you do go outside the box, you have to go back to the last start of the last walk back up to that box, do it. I think you'll walk in between, yeah.
I think that some of the other things we've talked about with the language, I think is maybe it's 50-50. Some things are purposeful and the others are just inconsistencies.
Do you think on this, so Nadine says that the 500 meter row is silly. Do you think that things like that 500 meter row, like, was it that the workout was too short and they couldn't, in testing, maybe they were like, oh, if we add overhead squats, it's too much for the workout, and if we do more legless rope climbs or more handstand walks, it's too much, so we need to add in a bit of interference. Let's just put 1,000 meter row split between the two.
I feel like it's in there almost to like stop the interference. It's almost a little break in my head. I feel like that's what they've done. It's like have some kind of overhead fatigue, a mini rest, and then a lot of back-to-back quite complex gymnastics. But then like when you come back up or on the way back down, you've then got the 500 meter row again. Like no one is really going to push that. Yeah, and because it's like 500 meters, the difference between holding like 2 minutes versus 155 or 155 versus 150 or whatever, it's like the difference is negligible. So no one is really going to push that, knowing that you've then got 20 overhead squats and people are probably going to break on the overhead squat. So there's no point in pushing the row more than what would allow you to basically pick that bar up straight away. I feel like if you were coming off the handstand walk pirouettes, straight into the overhead squats, it's just like it would be too much of the same movement that people would be doing those overhead squats in 2s.
Imagine the pirouettes are on parallettes, just when you said the word.
It's coming.
That's good. That'll surely be in the games. Do you like that one? It's a very, very Boz workout, isn't it?
It is. I think for me personally, it's like almost too big a jump from quarters, what we've seen at quarters. Like quarters, the rope pulling was 9 rope climbs, no legless. And now we've gone from 9 rope climbs to 2 seated legless rope climbs. I really hope that that's not an L-sit, because I feel like that's way too subjective to be included.
I'd say it's just that you can't jump, or it's longer and you can't jump. I'd say that's the...
Yeah, it's just that like, so when they briefed the alpaca event at the games, the standard, there were so many questions, plus the fact that there was obviously the weather and everything like that. But like the standard was that they said that there was a low tape that your feet would have to be off the mat by the time your hands crossed the low tape. And then obviously your legs had to be on one side of the rope. So you know how you normally like start to swing your legs, and when you swing your legs, the rope is in between your legs. You couldn't do that. Basically the rope would have to be down one side of your body, and then you had to obviously legless back down. And there were so many questions because we were basically like trying to find the margins of where we could push. It was like, oh, so could I leave my feet and on the floor and like almost stand up until right at the last minute? And they were like, well, no, because they were obviously trying to keep stuff from us. They wouldn't tell us how high or low the marker was to be able to give us a decent indication of like, test 1 and 3 won't be live streamed. That's interesting. To give a decent indication of how kind of difficult that first pulling stage would be, where it is basically like strict, either else it or like tucked up into a ball. But like, it's just a massive difference for me from what we've seen at quarters. Like, we might have people at semis who can't legless rope climb.
But is the thing there to make sure that they don't get through?
Yeah, but then they wouldn't get through if it was a legless.
Okay, yeah, I follow. Yeah, okay.
Like, for me, those movements they're games level movements.
Yeah,
they're not semis level movements yet. Like, had we done them, it might be, but
I'm not sure on that. I think I disagree on that. I think that these are, like, in the volume that it's programmed, I would say that it was semi-finals.
Fight.
I think if it had been in higher volume, then maybe I would agree with you. But I think 4 reps in a workout, depending on what they do with the standard, if they do it the way that you said with the rope has to be outside the legs, that is actually quite a lot harder, especially on the descent. But if it's just a standard, like, okay, you sit on the floor, the way we actually did these in a competition recently, the one that I talked about at the start of the show, and it was just, you start seated, your heels have to be the first thing that come off the floor, and then it's just a legless rope climb. And that was extremely easy to judge. There was no like tape line that your hands had to go to or anything. You could just clearly see feet went up first.
Do you think they just drop down from the top or come down normally from the top?
I mean, you would, if you're
in this, do you think they have to come back down?
It depends where the rope is. Like Lou said, if the rope is on the outside, then that actually makes the descent very difficult, because you have to really kind of control that descent down, especially if there's a certain line that you have to come down to.
They don't make them leglessly climb back down, though, do you think? They don't make them leglessly.
I think they might.
Really? So technically, okay.
That was the standard for the alpaca. They wanted us to legless back down.
I guess then, if that'll be your marker, Lucy, of so if they just do go up, then it's applicable as a semi-final. If they did up and down at the games last year, you'd accept up.
Yeah, I guess so. But like, I do think we never actually tested that.
Yeah, okay, fair.
So I think it'll be interesting to see. But I do think that like this is one of the events where like there will be a big difference in terms of men and women and how they tackle this. And so yeah, I think that will be interesting to see.
They're not doing 1 and 3. 1 and 3 is that they're the two kind of like longer ones, we reckon, of Linda and the run at the start.
I want to see Linda.
I mean, they're only live streaming 3 semi-finals anyway. Surely they just live stream all of the 3 that they're doing. Oh, for fuck's sake!
But also, that's so weird, because like, why wouldn't you?
Maybe they don't like odd numbers, but they're doing 5. I wonder, is it because they're longer and maybe more monotonous to look at for someone who isn't like, oh, what's that? Like someone who isn't big into the sport would be.
Yeah, but then they just wouldn't watch.
I suppose because it's not as if it's going on ESPN; it's just on YouTube.
No.
All of the tests on the secondary comp floor won't be live streamed. All right, so they're setting up a floor, and they're just obviously not bothering to set up the other floor then.
Okay, so that's how they're getting the volume of athletes through the.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just a shame not to be able to watch.
Yeah, I wanted to watch Linda. I wanted to see how people dealt with those dumbbells and like any kind of dramas on that sense.
Yeah, you'll be in Berlin, I guess you can see it there.
That's very true. I forgot that.
That's at the end, though. You won't have seen any of their shenanigans. Very proud I fit that word in. All right, test 7. Last one with the individuals then. 3 rounds for time, 6-minute cap. So this is just like flat out. 15 echo bike calories, 20 toes to bar, 60-foot sandbag, bear hug carry. I guess the first question that comes to mind on this is, will they have watched Rogue and be like, right, what are we going to say when they get to the line? Are they allowed to just kind of like swan dive across it, or do they have to show control carried across it? That's the only real question I have about this workout.
Honestly, that was like one of my main concerns. like I hope that they have really thought about that, because
like your feet have to clear the line or something.
Well, yeah, and it's exciting. And also, what happens if that isn't the case?
Yeah.
Like, what happens if someone does trip and fall? Do you just like laugh and let them finish? Because like, as exciting as Rogue was, there was a lot of reps that shouldn't have been allowed, and like it was a spectacle, and it was one of my favorite events to watch at Rogue.
Mm.
But like in terms of the standards that should have been hit, there wasn't for a lot of the like most exciting finishes. And I think this is going to be the thing, like games placed are on the line, so people probably are going to launch. I hope that they just like the bag has to pass the line, so then people can just like face plant.
Yeah.
And
once they say, I don't really care what the standard is. Once they just say that, okay, because in Rogue it was like, oh, is that all right or not all right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they just say like, fuck it, once the bag clears the line, we don't care what you do. Because then, as you say, it's like kill or be killed. This is your last event or test, whatever. Sorry, Boz. This is your last test. So then it's like, just literally dive for the ticket, like give everything. I'm thinking of you in Lowlands, Lucy, where it was like coming down to the wire, and then you have this as your last one. You're like throwing your body on the like literally throwing your body across the line to get that ticket. I think that would be exciting. Yeah, what do you think about that? That it's Echo Bike, which also begs the question: if it's Air Runner, it's a similar kind of, you know.
I don't. It doesn't. I quite like Echo Bike, so I'm biased. But like for me, in that first one, I think I don't feel like it's going to be a massive differentiator. Like Phil said, I think a lot of people are going to get off at a similar time on that one. I think this one is actually like where the Echo Bike comes into it a little bit more.
Well, it's a classic. It's like Fikowski, whatever, 2 years ago in Madison or Newbury that time with the air bike. An air bike is more like, yeah, when someone's sending it than a C2 bike. You know, like it's just more like you get to see like the arms flying. If they've got hair, it's swinging around. Like it's more like spectacly than like, oh, that guy's standing up slightly on his C2 bike. Like it's more, I don't know, I just find it more cinematic or something to look at.
I think actually the Echo Bike is probably maybe even the biggest part of this workout, where it's like the smallest part of the first workout. Like because it's such a small number here, like it tempts you to go, because 20 toes to bar for the best athletes, especially the ones that are trying to get games tickets, like that is going to be unbroken for 3 sets, even fatigued at the end of the weekend. Like that is probably going to be what's in their head. Like I need to go unbroken. The 60-foot carry, they're going to want to go unbroken. So it's like, how do I gain advantage? And that's by going hard on the bike. And I think a 6-minute time cap kind of shows that intention that, okay, you have to go hard. Like it's pushing you to do that. So I think the Echo Bike is fine to use twice when it's in such a different setting to the first time they used it. I think with the sandbag thing with the finish line, with it being the same distance, 60 foot, all 3 rounds, maybe they're not even going to the finish line, because they wouldn't want to set off if it's like, I don't know if they're going 60 and then next round another 60 and then next round another 60. You need a pretty long competition floor then, or if they're going to go 60 and then next round they come back and then final round they go to the finish line.
And then you've got an element of running. You should
have the drop line a few meters before the finish line, so you drop and then you run and your chip timer gets done at the finish line. I think the thing with Rogue is that they had the finish line was where you dropped the bag. So that is where you have people going over the line, and it's very anticlimactic then to be like, oh, actually, it was a no rep, we're going to take you back. Like, just get rid of the standards. Like, okay, the bag and you have to get over the line, and then you have to get to the finish line.
Yeah, I actually agree with Brian here. The test one should have started and ended with a ski, or started with a run. So you have people, you have that thing of like, like that guy went out way too hot. You know, like having a machine. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think skiing, pulling, but maybe they tested that and it was just too hard. Like, you know, that's the other side of it that we don't know, I guess, because Boz was too afraid to come on before semifinals. Okay. Is there anyone, I'm putting you both in the spot a bit here, but is there anyone that springs to mind that's in the that's in contention for a game spot, or that you would have had as in contention for a game spot in any of the semifinals this year, when you look at that testing, that you're like, oh shit, like they actually are in trouble?
I don't think I've looked at the field of athletes enough and the workouts at the same time to really.
I also wouldn't want to.
I
wouldn't want to comment on that.
I think the bench press is gonna really like make or break some people's weekends. I think there will be people that you don't, because it's quite an unknown element. It hasn't been tested that heavy with the dumbbells. Like,
I think that and the ring complex are going to be the two.
Yeah.
That your classic like games athlete,
but I
and
think
you're looking at them not being able to do something, and you're like, what is wrong with them? You know, like that it doesn't compute because of how good they always are.
I think I think for me the bench press is when you'll see like you're like, wow, I didn't know that person would struggle so much with the bench press, and it would be a big like shock moment. I think you'll have, which is kind of a shame why they're not live streaming, because I think there will be some of the biggest shock moments in that workout where you're like, wow, that person just really dug themselves a hole, or wow, that person just made a huge jump for a games ticket.
It's almost like they should consult with like Brian Friend or someone and try and get some insights into what would trend well with people, but they just refuse to look for outside help. So there we are. Okay, my passive aggressive whispering aside, so teams, test 1, 4 rounds for time, 1 member at each station. So 1 member is doing a 2.5, a male I assume is doing a 2.5k echo bike, and a female is doing a 2k echo bike. If you're a girl, you're doing 2k, but there was only 1 at that station. Okay, 800 meter run, another person. Bear hug, sandbag hold, another person. 150 double unders, another person. And then you swap each round. I'm assuming the handbag, or this handbag, the bear hug, sandbag hold has to be for the duration. Like, how does that work? If you drop it, everyone stops? Like, what's the story?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're assuming, that if you drop it, like, everyone has to stop what they're doing. It would be kind of weird if not.
That's like that was like the one at Strength and Depth last year. Remember where someone was doing double unders, and if they stopped, the tandem row had to stop or something? There was like, wasn't there like it?
No, I think there was a games one.
Handstand hold.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, handstand hold. But yeah, that where it was like, that was I'm pretty sure that was at Strength and Depth. Maybe I'm wrong, but where like there was a lot of like, no, stop, no, you go now, and now you start. And there was a lot of this, so like that's going to be pretty tricky if there's 4 people and you're watching 1 person holding something.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard for the judges, like, to watch so many people and like that bear hug.
You guys keep talking about this. I'm going to go for a wee. So you guys keep talking about this. Phil, you can pretend you're host for a minute.
Okay. I don't know, but like the thing for me here is like, if you look at the times that it takes to do all those things, obviously, like, especially the run, I would say is the run and the echo bike might be kind of pretty similar. But let's say the run, you go really hard, like that's around 3 minutes, but you go in hard then. So let's take that up a little bit. Let's say 320. That is not comparable in any way to 150 double unders.
No,
so I don't know,
but I think sorry. I wonder whether there's a curveball on the double unders. Like, is it like a heavy rope double under or something like that?
I mean, you almost have to assume that either it is like that, like a heavy rope or a drag rope, or it's kind of like what you talked about with the rowing, that it's intentionally like almost a rest station.
Yeah.
Like, not that you're saying the rowing was a complete rest in that other workout, but it's like maybe that would be a way someone wouldn't think about a workout, that, oh, this rowing is not hard enough. Maybe it's potentially intentionally supposed to be a small rest period while you're still moving. And maybe the double unders is the same thing here. Like, is it supposed to be an easier station because you're going to get maybe 90 seconds of rest?
Yeah.
Or is it a drag rope and it's now the hardest thing there? Like, I don't know. So that would be really interesting for me, because it just doesn't seem to add up time-wise with the other stations.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I even don't feel like a 2K Echo bike and an 800-meter run add up. Like for me, a 2K Echo bike is significantly faster than an 800-meter run.
Yeah, the run seems to be like the longest.
The run is the longest bit by a mile.
Do you think that bear hugger has to, like, until the last person stops, or like is it like, oh, I'm finished my double unders, you can drop the bag?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. Isn't it? Philip, when you are an expert on a panel, I don't know is not an acceptable answer.
I don't know. What am I going to do?
Stake your claim.
Yeah.
You just pretend you know.
I would assume that you have to hold. Like, I would think that they would make it so that they want all of these things to like last about the same time, but maybe not.
Oh yeah, until everyone gets back.
If you look at the language, this is 800-meter run, same as the individuals have an 800-meter run, not assault run. So if they are able to do not assault running, this would then not be.
Yeah. Agreed.
But then that's slower again, isn't it?
No, I would say it's fast. It depends, like getting in and out of your lane, like around you. Maybe that slows it down a little, but I would say if you're not on a machine, you would probably go faster than on the machine.
Okay. I clicked the wrong button there. I'm sorry. Do you like that workout?
I think so. Like, I kind of wish it was more worm cleans. I think that 10 each round is not that much. So I kind of wish it was more like 15 to get the total volume up to like 60 rather than 40. But I think it's a decent start to the weekend. I think if the sandbag, if it has to be held for the whole time, that is going to be a huge limiter, especially for the boys more so, holding the 90-kilo bag whilst, let's say your female athlete runs a 330, 800 or something. Like, that's a long time to hold the bag.
Yeah. Or if you're last on the sandbag.
Yeah, I think that would become a huge factor of the workout.
Like, you've done your echo bike, you've done your run, you've done your double unders, you've done 30 worm clean and jerks, and then you're having to pick up a fucking sandbag and hold it. Yeah,
that would surely. I just feel like that would be the hardest part of the workout for me, definitely.
I think as well. Like, imagine if it is. So let's say it is an assault runner, and you can only work when the sandbag is being held or something like that. Like, you could just, if you can see that someone is going to drop it, and you can get really, like, it's quite clear. Who's to say, like, how do they actively stop you running when that bag is dropped? You know what I mean? You just run a little bit faster until the bag actually drops the floor, and then you kind of drive your foot back so the assault runner still carries on for a little bit. I just feel like there's too many things that you could kind of.
But same if it's a run around the track. What are you going to do? Like run after the person and be like, stop.
Exactly. Like, I'm not seeing anything.
It's like, and the judge in lane 4 has rugby tackled. Yeah. There's a good few questions there. And like the more we talk about it, the more I'm thinking you obviously maybe you have to hold it for a certain amount of time, accumulated time. And their judge is just standing there with a stopwatch saying, okay, you've hit 40 seconds, you can stop, or you've hit 90 seconds, you can stop.
Well, Ben said, I guess it's paired with the dubs, which means that it then would be a lot easier to control, because if they are kind of
beside each other, and
yeah, exactly, then you've got one judge that's counting the reps, and then you can kind of see that quite clearly.
Yeah. Okay, next one. This is so clunky, fucking hell. You have to, so I can't just no point explaining it. All right, 3 synchro muscle ups, as many rounds as possible. 3 synchro muscle ups, 1 partner on the rings and 1 on the bar. 5 synchro thrusters, 1 pair works while the other rests and switch, and you add 2 muscle ups and 5 thrusters, so it'll be 3 and 5, and then 5 and 10, and then 7 and 15. Fucking hell, my math fell apart really quickly there. But yeah, you get the idea. There's too many. I'm looking at 15, 3, 1, 1, 5, and then I'm like, what am I adding 2 to? Okay, so it's 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. of muscle ups, and 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. of thrusters. 15 minutes. What are we getting up to there, Phil? Do you think?
I think the best teams will be in the 35s, so they'll be on 15 muscle ups.
Muscle ups, yeah.
And 35 thrusters.
I'm glad you said that, because I was like, 35 muscle ups. Fucking hell. Okay, yeah. All right. So that's yeah, okay. It's gonna be hectic enough. The 5 synchro thrusters, it's just the 2 working on the thrusters at a time, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so then because 4 thrusters would be a bit of
interval based,
nightmare.
so you always get like 1-to-1 works rest, and then that work period is obviously getting bigger. The rest period is getting bigger.
Do you like that?
I like this. I kind of think that the individuals are missing something of this kind of feeling.
Well, is the one that they have? I know you're not building up the reps, but is the one that they have not the 3 minutes rest, 3 minutes rest?
Well, it is, but I feel like that is so heavily skill. Like,
yeah,
it's the skill bias. They've got the additional weight on the back, so they're gonna have to break up those muscle ups like much earlier than they would if it was like just a straight muscle up and thruster. You know, if that workout is like muscle ups and thrusters and burpees over the box, just, like a straight pain cave kind of workout like this one is, I don't know if the individuals have that. Like, obviously they're all going to hurt. You are going to be, I'm definitely not saying you're not going to be hurting, but like, I think this hits really hard, I think.
Do you not think that the snatch into the 800 is going to be absolute pain cave?
It is, but it's
the snatch for load, is it?
It's one time. It's very heavy. So if you're really strong, you can move through that really fast. But it's not like a CrossFit, like a couplet of movements that, like, ascending rep scheme. It's getting harder every round.
Yeah.
A bit more sort of quote unquote classic.
That's true. Is there any like actual 21:15:9 or anything in any of these?
No. Saying that from Madison, I guess.
Sorry, that test kilo is another one where it's like you're not really going to have any idea what anyone's on. Like, as a spectator.
Yeah, you'll have to kind of count yourself. You'll have to be like, okay, they're on their 3rd round, or like the first pair are back or whatever. Yeah.
Unless there is some way.
To be fair, when CrossFit run events, did you do regionals 2018, Lucy?
No, I stopped.
No, so you're more recent than that, right? So when they've run events before, like, they do a good job of like the floor plans, and like they have big numbers on. Like, if they do it like they used to, like, it'll say on the floor, it'll say 5, it'll say 10.
Yeah, I reckon the
all the way down the floor. So when you're stood on top of that number, the crowd knows what reps you're doing.
Yeah.
But if they do it like that, like, it should be visually better than it has been for the last few years, because those sort of things, I think they cost a lot of money, which is why it's difficult for competitions to do those things. But hopefully they go back to doing it in the way that they used to, where it was visually a little bit easier to follow.
I remember watching, was it Syndicate or Mac? And I started watching a team event, and I like basically had a fit where I was like watching so many different things at once, and I didn't know who anyone was or where anyone was. And I think everyone's doing burpees over the worm or something, and then moving the worm, and then doing burpees over the worm again. But I was like, my head is going to explode just trying to figure out who's in what lane and what team is which. So I do hope that they kind of factor that in when they're doing this. Okay, we kind of touched on this one earlier on. So you've got a 400 meter run faster than the 800 meter. Then you've got 10 dumbbell bench press, about 30 kilos and about 40-ish, 42. 15 single leg squats leg 1, 15 single leg squats leg 2. Interesting that they said that there and didn't say it, and we don't know if they did that on purpose or if someone was just like, oh shit, I already pressed publish. It's like 3 handstand pirouettes. Again, doesn't say handstand walk pirouettes, just says handstand pirouettes. And then you swap and like repeat basically. And that's just once through 16 minutes. Like it's surely not going to take 8 minutes for a pair to do that, is it?
It depends how many times you have to split the dumbbell bench press.
Yeah, okay. Is it 10 each, do you think, or just 10 combined?
No, so you go through. So
female one does everything, and then male one does everything?
Female one will go, as I read it, female one will go 400, 10, 15, 15, 3. The male one will do the same.
Or maybe start the 400 when they get off the 400 or something.
I don't think so. I think you
No.
do the full thing as a relay.
So that's how it ends up taking 16 minutes then, or that's how the cap is at that. Okay.
It's basically 4 minutes per segment.
Yeah, which I think is like a pretty reasonable time cap, where you'll have some teams that obviously go faster and will finish under the time cap, of course, but you'll have quite a lot of teams that don't finish under the time cap.
Mm.
I think because of how heavy those bench press are, and then the skill of the pirouette, depending on how, like, if that is like a significant distance between pirouettes, even that'll obviously play a big factor. Like if you have to walk 1 meter between pirouettes, or if you have to walk 5+ meters, that's obviously going to big difference. Or if you're reading into the language as much as you are, that you have to do these 3 on the spot, different to how the individuals do it. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that.
It is bizarre that they've said sprint. Like I find that really weird that they've said sprint. It's like, why would you not just say run, and then it's up to
Does
the
it indicate
person.
that there's a time cap on the run? I don't know. Like, do you have to do the run in a certain amount of time, like they did with Jackie Pro? Probably not.
Like surely if you're
just want to try and describe the stimulus of the workout in the language.
But that's the thing.
Like, unless you're an idiot, if everyone takes off sprinting, you're not going to be like, I read that as a jog.
But I do wonder whether, like, they're actually trying to lure you into a, I don't know, false thing here. Like, imagine if, let's say you are not efficient on handstand pirouettes, like at all, and it's very hit and miss as to whether or not you'll make it round or whatever. And I think it will have to be a full loop completed for it to be, like, you can't just like basically walk in a little circle in the box and then try to keep walking back around the circle, if you get me. Like, I think it's going to have to be an unbroken pirouette. If those are your most kind of problematic movements, full on sprinting the first bit might not be the best way to approach that. But they might want you to approach that because in theory, that's what you should be able to do.
Yeah, but then the only way they can encourage that is by having a tie break on it, or a split on it, or a cap or something.
I think when you see East Nashville do it this week, you'll see that everyone's pushing the run pretty hard.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
I'll be very surprised. I'll be very surprised if the top teams are not sprinting.
Yeah, no, I think they will.
Especially when you get to lie down. Like you literally get to lie down after the sprint.
Yeah.
So
part of me wishes it was 15 pistols, 400 meter sprint, just for that kind of Wadapalooza. Like, my legs aren't working, feeling well to a lesser extent, I suppose. What about that? The fact that it's 10 and then 15 and 15 and then 10. Like, why not just leave it at 10 and 15? Like, is it enough of a difference to bother changing the work?
I think the extra 5 bench press makes a difference. I think that 10 is a push for a lot of people to go unbroken. And I think 15, there'll be very few that can go unbroken. Like, even strong athletes, I think, will struggle to do 15 unbroken. Of course, there's always outliers that will, but the majority of the field I'm talking about. So I think those extra 5 bench press do make a difference.
I think that's the thing, though. It only makes a difference on the bench press. I think it's kind of irrelevant on the squat.
Yeah, it's probably just for like whatever you call it.
Say on the website, I think it says unbroken, doesn't it? Or so on the website it says. I'm looking at the website. You're looking at the Instagram. That says single leg squats. This says unbroken single leg squats.
That's nice and consistent.
So
does it say unbroken single leg squats leg 1?
Yes.
That's weird.
So
what, do you go back to 0 if you stumble?
Yeah. So if your leg touches the floor, or you go outside of the box, they basically had a box on the floor. So that's the thing. They might have a box on the floor for single leg squats, leg 1, a box
and then
on
the reuse it,
squat 2, and then use it for the pirouettes.
I need to tell the team about that, because we've been looking at the screenshots that we've done of Instagram And I don't think we've talked about the fact that it has to be unbroken. I've just realised now that we're looking at this that it says it on the website unbroken.
That's
So
the thing.
Interesting.
That's a game changer.
That shouldn't happen.
Especially if you go back to zero. Like, you assume that you have to go back to zero.
Yeah.
Can you share your screen, Phil? No.
Oh, I think it's too late. It's just after 10 o'clock at night. I think that'd be a little bit much trying to figure out that.
At the bottom underneath where we are, does it say at the bottom mute stop cam settings share screen?
It says present. Oh, present might have it.
No.
And
then you can pick the window if it does. If it's not, if it's too much hassle, it doesn't matter.
But if it's a standard that it was at the games, basically, if you hop outside of the box trying to save the rep, or if that foot touches the floor in any way, it all resets.
Yeah, so that discrepancy between 15 single leg squats and 15 unbroken single leg squats has unraveled all of my confidence in the wording matters that I've had up until this point.
I told you
Everything.
it's mistakes.
Yeah, it's like you just pulled that one thread and the whole Jenga tower came down. Yeah, okay. I've just lost. Yeah, I've just basically retracted everything I said. No, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Fuck's sake. What are we on? 4. Present, share screen. See, it's not that hard, Phil.
I had to do like a lot of tick boxes and stuff, or like, I don't know. It said buy a second monitor.
5 rounds per time in your pairs, 10 or 7 row calories, 10 each synchro alternating dumbbell snatches.
I don't understand how that.
Why is each there?
Have been clearer, yeah.
10 each synchro alternating dumbbell snatches. You both do them. Like, that's the only unnecessary language I could have had at the end there. 15 each, 24. That makes sense to have the each there. 15 each, 24 inch box jumps. Like, surely if they're synchro, you're both doing. That's moronic.
Yeah.
Again, all my confidence is shot now in the wording. And then you go back. Second pair start. When both pairs have competed around, switch positions for the following round. Pair 1 will row 3 times and ski 2 times, and then pair 2 will ski 3 times and row 2 times. 15 minutes. What do you think of that one?
When I first read it, I thought it was another interval workout, but actually it's everyone working all at the same time.
Yeah, that's how I just read it. I was like, this is another interval one. Okay.
It's so like one pair.
You're both starting simultaneously on 2 different. Okay, yeah.
So the only rest you get is if you finish quicker than the other pair. Just you get those few seconds. But I think that the rounds are pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a hard workout. Like, that's a lot of heavy dumbbell snatches, and I think especially for the boys, like when we've done a lot of dumbbell snatch stuff, it just does seem to be with the scaling that they've used, like with the 70 to 50 especially, that the girls could just move a lot faster than the boys, and that. So I think this workout will be about your guys kind of keeping up and handling that 90 and 70 pound dumbbell well for a lot of reps.
Yeah, it is a lot of machines on the floor as well. Like
four per team. Yeah.
4 per team, and how many teams? And like, what's Europe's got? How many teams are in Europe? 60? 40?
40, I think.
So 2 heats of 20 teams. 20 times 4, 80 machines on the floor at a time.
They'll probably look pretty clustered on the floor, this one, I would guess.
Yeah. Absolute chaos. Yeah. That's going to be hectic. And again, it's another one that's hard to follow, where you're kind of like, because even like I confused myself reading the end bit. Like, pair 1 will row 3 times and ski 2 times, and pair 2 will ski 3 times and row 2 times. I was like, what? And then I just pretended I knew what it meant and went back to the start.
I mean, I do think that, like, obviously one of the comments that you made earlier was like trying to get people to understand to follow the workouts. Like, if you're someone that doesn't really watch CrossFit and you want to watch CrossFit for the first time and like actually get excited about it, these workouts are confusing.
Yeah.
Like they're not simple workouts if you're trying to get by. And let's say that the semis were on CNN or whatever. Like I don't feel like these are easy enough to follow that you would get people tuning in and staying with it for long enough to be like, oh, CrossFit's great.
Yeah.
I think you would be quite limited on what if that is like, you still have to have, I think you have to have these kind of tests where that all athletes are working they're going to be working for quite a long period of time. It's difficult to make that, to have them all working on their own piece of equipment and not kind of have it a little bit messy.
But like I would say that this is the case for a lot of the workouts, not just this one.
Yeah, I agree that it for the teams it's difficult I think for a lot of these, obviously apart from like when they're going like relays, that's pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, but then relays,
the worm stuff is hopefully easy because they'll be able to advance the worm down the floor. Hopefully,
but there's not much.
That one's going to be a little bit tricky, a bit of a mess.
Yeah, there's only 2 workouts with worm stuff in it.
Yes, only 2. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not high reps either.
Relatively low. I think that's a pretty common theme with a lot of other stuff, that it's not super high reps of stuff.
A European athlete, look at
that. Woohoo!
All right, test 5. 1 minute max rep cleans. Weight 1 lightest. 2 minutes rest. 1 minute max rep cleans. Weight 2. 2 minutes rest. 1 minute. I'm getting tired now because I can't speak fluently. 1 minute fucking hell. 1 minute max rep cleans. Weight 3. Heaviest. How are you understanding this to work, Phil? Is it like one person is at each station and one person's waiting, or are they all going together?
I'm assuming that the girls or the guys are going to go through it in female, male pairs.
As in, like, I do a clean, you do a clean.
No, I think like you have the minute, so the female athletes share that minute how they want and get it, and they do as many reps as possible, and they get the rest, and they maybe go through the whole ladder, and then the guys go. Again, it's a little bit of a gray area because it doesn't say that you're working in pairs, so maybe you're working individually and you each have your own minute at the bar.
That's what, 28. That's like 28 minutes. Although I guess the rest is the same in between, so you could have one person on each station, but then you have someone starting on the heaviest weight and going to the lightest weight if you don't do 28 minutes of a workout, which is long.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way to condense it would be to have like, so you have a minute clock, a 30-second rest, and then the next minute is the males going, 30 seconds rest, and then the females will be going again. So that equals the 2 minutes of rest.
Yeah.
But you have people working during the resting time. That would be the way to condense the workout, but I'm not sure if that's...
That heavy bar is pretty heavy.
It is heavy.
It's very heavy, yeah.
Would you be expecting on that last workout, on that last bar, would you be expecting it to be like, say, if some plane crash happened and me and Phil were on a team together because everyone else was dead? If we were doing it, would you do a clean and then I do a clean? Is that how you'd be expecting that to work on the last bar?
I think that it just depends how strong you're. Like, okay, you can.
But as in potentially that would be allowed to happen. Like,
are you using Mia and I as example? What did you say?
Yeah, I was going to say me and you, but yeah, Mia is far more likely to be on a team.
I would probably like, okay, Mia does 2, I do 1. Mia does 2, I do 1, because it's still a lower percentage of her max than it would be of mine. So
yeah,
you just got to utilize those strengths. But really, it's much more about the first barbell than it is about the last barbell, because if you are like, there's going to be less reps that get done at the last barbell. Everyone will be able to lift the first barbell. So you have to go really hard on the first one
to separate,
hard on the second one. And then if you are strong enough to lift the last one, you've already beaten half the teams, because half the teams won't have. I think for the girls, I think there'll be a lot of teams that don't have 2 people that can lift the barbell. I think that a lot of the boys will be able to lift 315, but not many times, 1 or 2. Like they won't be able to rep it out, and then the top teams will still be able to potentially even hit powers at that weight.
But surely, like in my head, there's got to be some way that they are weighting the score for the reps at the heavier weight than they are for the reps at the lighter weight, because
you could just kill yourself on the first bar and then stand there.
I think it would be good if they said, like, for every rep that you do, you get a point on the first bar, and the second bar is 2 points, and the last bar is 3 points, to make the emphasis on like rewarding people. But I guess I can't see that it. I don't think anyone that can't lift the last barbell will somehow win the workout because they did so many at the first barbell. Because it's still kind of heavy.
It is kind of heavy, but it's like it's heavy enough to be repeatable. So I would not be able to lift that last barbell, but I can rep high percentages with fairly short rest. So I would be one of the people that would be like, I'll end myself on the first barbell if the last one is exactly like, if it's 1 for 1, I will end myself on the first barbell.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's got to be some kind of reward for getting a lift that's at that last load. Or getting a few lifts.
I would like it that each athlete has to do it individually, because then it allows for more separation as well and less tied scores. If it's the female sharing and the male sharing, then like there's going to be more tied scores because of that, because there's less, like you can only do so much in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so much time available. So I would kind of like it if they each had all the time to themselves.
Yeah.
But I can't see it with it being a team event that they would do that. I think it will be split the time between like the males or between the females.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns there, really, isn't there? All right, last one, best one. Just need to remember how to speak. All right, so for time, 15 worm burpees, 15 worm squats. Women complete 1 seated legless rope climb each. Men complete 10 strict chest to wall handstand push-ups each. Then you switch. You go again. Oh, sorry. Fuck, I read that wrong. Okay.
So you switch so that the men are now doing the rope climb and the women are now doing the handstand push-up.
I read it as you do the worm burpees, squats, the gymnastics, then you switch for the next round, but it's actually you directly switch. Okay.
Yeah.
So the guys then do the rope climbs, the girls do the push-ups, then you do the worm squats.
I think
2 and 15. Then the guys do 2 and the women do 15 handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups. Then worm again, then 3 rope climbs, regular rope climbs, then 20 handstand push-ups each. Anyone not doing a seated legless rope climb at this level at semi-finals on a team?
Yes.
Pretty harsh putting it in, isn't it?
In teams, there'll be people who can't do a rep of that.
But you think that there won't be anyone in the individuals?
No, I don't think we argued whether it was going to be anyone that could do it individually.
No, but I think that's going to be a massive sticking point as to whether people are comfortable doing that back to back.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that there will be much more people in teams that struggle with that than individuals.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Would it not have been fairer to put that one last, like to lower the reps and up the skill on a movement where you could potentially have half the teams just sitting there stuck with like one girl sitting on the floor with her hands on the rope, or one guy when it comes back?
I don't know. I think it's fine to, at this stage of competition, semi-finals, to start with the harder elements. I don't think we have to be too nice that it's always like, oh, let's let everybody start the workout and they can go harder towards the end. Like sometimes it's hard from the start, and this is to get to the games. Like the people right now that are fully invested in this workout is to get to the games, and you need to be able to do these movements to get there. That is what the test is this year. So yes, from a spectator point of view, it's like you want to see your people advance as far through the workout as you can, but sometimes it needs to be like okay, this is this, like, you know, when they put ring muscle ups in the open, it started with 7 ring muscle ups. It was just like, we're going to start aggressive on this workout, and some of you will get your first muscle ups and some of you won't. And
I guess the thing of it being ring muscle ups is that, like, if you scale the workout, they're like, you can't be at semi-finals and be like, oh, I'm just going to do like normal rope climbs for these two so we can move on. Maybe I'm too soft, but I just think in a team workout where there's going to be people who are like maybe like just good enough for a team, I just think it's really harsh putting that as
maybe they've just done 5, like they've been able to do 5 workouts. And if they've just good enough to be a team, then this is probably like their ultimate goal was to get to semi-finals.
Okay.
And now you've got to do 5 workouts against the best athletes, share the floor with the best athletes in the region, and now you've come up against something that is like, okay, now I'm not good enough for this test, and that's why fair. I was just good enough to get here, because I'm not good enough to finish the whole thing. So next year, I need to be good enough to finish the whole thing. Just a different way of looking at it.
You do a lot of, I like that. You do a lot of programming for competitions and stuff, and coaching as well. How do you view, say, the whole individual test and the whole team test? Are you like, yeah, everything's balanced, it's good, I like it, we're testing like power, we're testing strength, we're testing endurance, we're testing recovery, I like it? Or do you think there's any gaps?
I mean, balanced is like maybe not the best word, because I think what a lot of people do is they will criticize the semifinals because they're not the games.
Mm-hmm.
Like the games is like supposed to, like, you can really say, like, was this like completely balanced, and like, was the semifinals good enough to get the right people to the games?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that these workouts are doing that. I think for the teams, I think the teams are the best teams will go through those workouts. I don't think that there will be teams that, if you change the workouts around, maybe I would have liked to see the worm being used more in the team workouts. And that would be probably the one major factor that could really change up the leaderboard a little bit. For the individuals, like I said, I think maybe, in my opinion, it's very biased towards heavier loading and higher skill, with maybe is missing something a bit more traditional pain cave. I don't really know how to explain it, but just a couplet or a triplet that is a little bit, it's hard enough so that it's appropriate for the semi-final level, but not so hard that it's like only the strongest people can really get the intensity out of it, or only the best gymnasts will get the intensity out of it. Everybody can hit the intensity, but the best people still win the workout. And I think something, either a couplet or triplet, pretty classic movements, common movements, or one of the old school kind of chippers, like that we had, like the 100s chipper 2013, the 50s chipper 2014. Nothing in that was too aggressive in terms of loading or skill, or even, there was quite a few throughout the years. Maybe the individuals is missing one workout like that, but it's also easier to say that before you see the competition than after you've seen the whole thing and you think, okay, that actually played out differently to how maybe I thought it would, and it was a really good test. But yeah, I think you need to be very strong to get to the CrossFit Games this year.
What do you think, Lucy? Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, oh no, don't do that. I think it's an interesting one for me, because like I kind of said it at the start, these tests are like so different from anything that I have seen in CrossFit. And I know that when I was like listening to some of the other podcasts and stuff, they were saying, actually, if you look at like really old school CrossFit.com programming, they had some of the movements that are in this, but like, I've only been doing CrossFit since 2018, so I kind of only have seen what some of the new, like the 2018 regionals was kind of the first time that I ever like actively watched a CrossFit competition, and these just don't feel like any of those at all, even though I know that some people have kind of been saying that they do mirror in some ways. but for what I have quote unquote grown up with seeing as being CrossFit, this doesn't look like that. And I'm sure like some proper like old school CrossFit fans will tell me that that's complete rubbish. But like I've only been here, this is my 5th year in it, and it kind of reflects the fact that like every competitive season that I've seen so far has been different as well. And this is kind of like that this is going back past what I've sort of experienced CrossFit as being. And like, as I said, there's no classic CrossFit 21:59 style workout in there. Like, and yeah, I guess there isn't any real pain cave workout. And I think as well, when I obviously didn't do any of the quarterfinals tests, but I did speak to a lot of people that did them, and they were kind of like, there wasn't really anyone that was full like end yourself type gassy. Like the Masters kind of had that with the row calorie thruster workout that was ascending or descending reps, I can't remember. But there was nothing like that was like, right, I just kind of go from start to finish and I end on the floor. So I think I kind of agree with Phil there that would be something that I would like to see. And that is something that I personally, in a very strange way, would enjoy doing. Like, I know that that's the kind of workout that I would look at and be like, that's going to be horrendous. Like, I can't wait type thing. So yeah, I think they'll be good to watch, but
yeah. I think I'm going to ask a question that everybody wants to know the answer to. And that is that monkey behind you a functioning lamp, Lucy?
Oh, it is, but hang on. I don't know whether it's actually plugged in. Oh, it's not plugged in because my laptop's on charge.
That's just...
It is a functioning lamp.
Like the best lamp I think I've ever seen turning on. Okay, so we've got who we got? North America East and Africa this weekend. No, next weekend. That's first up. Then we've got West, giving the Americans a nice break before the games. We've got West and Colpasor after that.
Torian week 2, right?
Oh yeah, Torian, Colpasor and Pasadena, and then Asia and Europe at the end then. So I put up a post earlier on saying that I'm doing like a kind of a global tour. So you guys are on today. I had Keelan Henry on last night from Africa. I have Kat Van Ziel from Oceania on Tuesday, and Emma McQuaid and Sam Briggs are coming on as well on Tuesday. And then Dave Scherenke on Thursday for Europe. Then I've got Leo Franco. Annika Greer's coming on this Sunday for East. Leo Franco's coming on for West. And I made a South American friend, so I didn't have a South American friend when I put up the post. But Victoria Campos is coming on for South America. And then I have 2 more. I can't remember where I stopped. Yeah, Janikowski's doing it. And Jen Muir is doing it, and I'm trying to work on 1 or 2 more Europeans as well. But yeah, no, we're going. So we're actually hitting all the semifinals. So I actually have a calendar, and it's like it's just too many days are booked up. But anyway, yeah, it's all a bit of crack, isn't it? So yeah, step 1. No one goes to semifinals in North America. CrossFit takes over the semifinals. CrossFit, not the organization, has to pay for the whole thing. They prioritize the people that buy the tickets and go. Also, they're talking about Halpin's talking about not displaying the 2 workouts, not live streaming the 2 workouts. They're arguing about that. Sorry. Yeah, that's fair. Also, yeah. Also, step 1. Yeah, they give the American athletes extra rest compared to the rest. Why didn't they put one of the Americans ones on the last week? That's what I want to know. I'm only joking. But kind of thanks for coming on, Phil and Lucy. I said I was going to go for a half an hour run and it's 9:30. And I also said, funnily, I don't think this was. I don't think that the camera. I don't think we were live when I said it. But Phil was like, "What? Like, how much depth are we going into?" I've seen those other guys do like 2-hour shows, and I don't think. And I was like, no, we're not going to talk about this for 2 hours. And we're on to 1 hour 54 minutes. So I appreciate it, Phil. This is like, late. I know how precious sleep is, especially when you've got kids and stuff. But thank you for coming on and sharing your insights, and Lucy as well. All the best for your recovery. We'll see you in Berlin. Yeah. Thank you for your insights there. It's been great. Thanks to everyone watching and commenting and stuff as well. What day is today? Friday. Sunday, Annika Greer, 3 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. GMT or whatever you call it now. International Standard Time, or I don't know what time you call it. Anyway, thank you. All the best. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you. Thanks.